In 2020, he was the best pitcher in the National League. By 2021, he was the highest paid arm in the sport, a Cy Young winner at the absolute peak of his career. Today, he can't get a single one of the 30 major league teams to even return a call.
Your teammates don't even think about you anymore.
I do not believe that Trevor Bauer ever pitches again in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, his career's done.
You're the Dodgers. You don't want him representing your team or the uniform.
He's never been charged. An arbiter cut his suspension nearly in half. He's healthy, he's dominant, and he's begging for a chance. And Major League Baseball has decided you should forget he exists. This is the full story of Trevor Bauer being blackballed from Major League Baseball. Baseball has always known how to make a man disappear. The sport that calls itself America's pastime has a quiet, ruthless tradition. When the league decides you're a problem, it doesn't need a courtroom. It doesn't need a verdict. It just needs every team to agree all at once to stop calling. They call it blackball. There's no press release, no official ban, just 30 front offices independently deciding the same thing on the same day for reasons none of them will ever say out loud. To understand how baseball did it to Trevor Bauer and why his case is unlike any before it, you have to go back to a kid in Southern California who treated baseball like a physics problem. Trevor Bauer grew up obsessed, not just with throwing a baseball, but engineering it. While other prospects relied on raw talent, Bauer treated his own arm like a laboratory. Long toss programs, weighted baseballs, high-speed cameras breaking down every frame of his mechanics years before the rest of baseball caught up.
So I came in, it used to take me about an hour and 45 minutes. It still takes me about an hour and 45 minutes, but what I do has kind of changed. So I start off, I sit in the hot tub, go get dressed in my uniform, and then I'm doing some hip positioning exercises, some activation, glute activation, doing some core activation, thoracic spine, mobility, warm everything up. Do some activation stuff in the weight room, starting to add a little bit of weight, some movement to it. We got the bands, like the jigger bands, warm up the shoulders, triceps, biceps, pecs, like just adding a little bit more. And I do something I do that most people don't do is I strap 10-pound wrist weights to my hands, and I'm going through a bunch of different exercises.
At UCLA, that obsession turned into dominance. He rewrote the school record books and was drafted 3rd overall by the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2011, one of the most hyped college arms in the country. But here's the thing about Bauer, that wouldn't define his entire career, both the rise and the fall. He never ever did things the way he was told to. He clashed with coaches. He refused to change his in-between starts routine. Arizona gave up on him in barely a year, shipping him to Cleveland. And in Cleveland, finally left alone to do it his way, Trevor Bauer became one of the most fascinating pitchers in the sport. The numbers climbed every year. By 2018, Bauer wasn't just good, he was an ace, finishing 6th in Cy Young voting and pitching like a top 10 starter in this sport. But he was building something off the field too. Bauer was one of the first stars to truly understand YouTube and social media. He filmed everything. He spoke his mind, loudly, about the things he thought baseball got wrong. And that's the part of this story you can't skip, because the same outspokenness that built his brand also made him enemies in some of the most powerful offices in the game. Guys, before we continue, I'm excited to announce I'm partnering with Arena Club on this video. On Arena Club, you can rip digital packs to get real graded cards. Now, fun fact, I actually was big into collecting before the 2020 craze, and I actually own this bad boy. Here's the beauty, on Arena Club, you can open anything from baseball to Pokemon packs starting at just 25 bucks. Now, those packs include grails that can be worth up to 20 times the pack price. Here's an example. So this Ruby pack, you can pull a sick purple refractor Aaron Judge rookie auto PSA 10. What about a beautiful Ohtani? I mean, who doesn't love a Bobby Witt atomic 1010 auto? I mean, that's nasty. The thing I love about Arena Club is the transparency. There's no wondering if you'll pull any kind of hit, because everything you can pull is listed before you even choose to buy the pack. So like I said, the cards start at 25 and jump to 2,500, but let me show you exactly how it works. Alright, I'm gonna grab me one of these Ruby packs. Are you ready to reveal the slabs? Open slab pack. Whoa. What is it? Nice! An Aaron Judge Shadow Etch Gem Mint 10 PSA 10. That's sick. Now here's the beauty. Once you pull your card, Arena Club gives you an instant offer. So as you can see right here, they're giving me $162. Now the beauty is you can take that $162, you can keep the card in your showroom, you can accept trades, or you can have them ship it directly to your house. And guess what? I'm going to hook you guys up. I have a huge discount for you guys. First time collectors will get 20% off your first slab pack. All you have to do is go to arenaclub.com/hustle and use the code HUSTLE to get 20% off. Huge thanks to Arena Club and happy ripping. Then came 2020, a pandemic shortened season, and the best 3 months of Trevor Bauer's life. He led all of baseball in ERA. He won the National League Cy Young Award, dominance at all levels. At 30 years old, Trevor Bauer was officially the best pitcher in the league.
It's my pleasure to announce the 2020 National League Cy Young Award goes to Trevor Bauer of the Cincinnati Reds.
Trevor Bauer is the first Cincinnati Red to ever win the Cy Young.
And in February 2021, that dominance was rewarded. The Los Angeles Dodgers, the reigning World Series champions, handed him a 3-year, $102 million contract. The deal? The highest AAV any pitcher in baseball had ever signed. He'd done it. The kid who got traded away for being quote-unquote difficult, who built his arm in his home garage, was now the highest paid pitcher on the most glamorous team in the sport. He made 13 starts as a Dodger. He hasn't thrown a single major league pitch since.
Dodgers ace pitcher Trevor Bauer hit with a restraining order after a woman claims he violently assaulted her during a previous sexual encounter. But now Bauer's lawyers are firing back with explosive claims of their own.
In the summer of 2021, a woman accused Trevor Bauer of sexual assault and sought a restraining order against him. Bauer denied the accusation, stating that every encounter was consensual. What followed was nearly 2 years of legal process, and it's important to be precise about how it actually played out because the facts here are the entire reason this story is still being argued today. Major League Baseball placed Bauer on administrative leave while it investigated. In August of 2021, after a hearing, a judge declined to grant the woman a long-term restraining order. In February of 2022, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office reviewed the case and declined to file any criminal charges. Bauer was never arrested, never charged, never tried. But baseball doesn't operate by a courtroom's rules. Under the sport's joint policy on these matters, a policy that does not require a criminal conviction, the commissioner's office handed down its own punishment. 324 games, 2 full seasons, the longest suspension of its kind in the history of the policy. Bauer appealed, and in December of 2022, a neutral independent arbiter, not chosen by Bauer, reviewed all evidence and reduced the suspension to 194 games. A significant cut, an outside arbiter looking at the same facts and deciding the league had gone too far. By that point, Bauer had effectively served the time. He was eligible to pitch again, so the Dodgers welcomed him back, right?
Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The LA Dodgers have officially released Trevor Bauer. He was suspended for violating the league's domestic violence and sexual assault policy in April of 2022.
In January of 2023, days after becoming eligible, the Los Angeles Dodgers cut him. They designated him for assignment and ate the remaining tens of millions of dollars on his contract, choosing to pay him not to play rather than put him back on the mound. Now think about what that means. A team doesn't walk away from that kind of money on a former Cy Young winner unless the decision was about something bigger than baseball. And here's where the real story begins. Because Bauer, now a free agent, healthy, eligible, cleared of criminal wrongdoing, available to all 30 teams for the league minimum salary, and not one team signed him? Not the rebuilding teams desperate for innings? Not the contenders one arm short in October? Not a single franchise in a sport where pitching is the most valuable commodity that exists? That's not a coincidence. That's a decision, 30 of them all at once. So why? If he was never charged and an independent arbiter cleared him to play, how was he still out of the league? There are 3 forces working against Trevor Bauer, and you have to understand all 3. First, the money isn't the obstacle, it's the cover. Signing Bauer cost almost nothing in salary, but it cost a fortune in attention. The moment a team signs him, every press conference, every road series, Every sponsor call becomes about the controversy instead of baseball. For a billion-dollar franchise, the cheapest move is simply to never invite the head egg. Second, the outspokenness. Remember how this story started. Bauer spent the decade publicly criticizing the way baseball is run. He is not a quiet, apologetic figure who keeps his head down. He fights back, loudly, online, with receipts. For executives who already wanted a reason to pass, his refusal to disappear quietly gives them one. And third, the unwritten rule of the blackball itself. No single owner has to be a villain. Not one has to explain a decision they never officially made. When all 30 teams quietly agree, accountability is gone. There's no ban to appeal. There's no ruling to overturn. There's just silence. A phone that never rings. That's the genius and the cruelty of a blackball. You can't fight something that technically doesn't exist. So Trevor Bauer did something honestly no one expected. He left. In 2023, he signed in Japan with the Yokohama Baystars, and the country embraced him. Sellout crowds, a folk hero following. He pitched well, drawing some of the biggest TV ratings the league had ever seen. Then Mexico, then independent ball back in the United States, in front of crowds a fraction the size of the ones that once watched him pitch in October. And through all of it, he kept filming, kept posting his bullpen sessions, his velocity readings, his strikeouts, broadcasting to millions of followers a simple, relentless message: I can still do this. The scouting reports agree. By every measurable standard, Trevor Bauer is still good enough to pitch in the major leagues. The arm works. The talent never left. The door is just locked from the outside. And that leaves baseball with a question it really doesn't want to answer. If a player is never charged with a crime, if an independent arbiter reviews the evidence and clears him to return, who exactly gets to decide he can never work again? Because the uncomfortable truth is this: Trevor Bauer's case isn't really about Trevor Bauer anymore. It's about whether 30 private businesses can quietly, permanently end a man's career with no ruling, no explanation, and no way to fight back. And whether that should be how America's pastime gets to operate. Some fans think the blackball is justice the courtroom couldn't deliver. Others think it's exactly the kind of unaccountable power no league should ever have. So every day, somewhere far from the bright lights he was built for, the best pitcher baseball won't sign keeps throwing 60 feet 6 inches over and over towards a major league batter who doesn't exist. He's still waiting for a phone to ring that everyone in baseball has quietly agreed will never ring again. The bigger question is why the most powerful man in baseball wanted him gone in the first place, and what Bauer claims he exposed about the league before any of this happened. Be sure to drop your verdict in the comments. Should MLB let Trevor Bauer back into baseball?